Oh my gosh! Chemicals are spilled all over Ohio!
Not anymore. We've written a bill to stop it all. It's called the Junk Fee Prevention Act. We're going to ban surprise resort fees that hotels charge on your bill.
Y'all, Ohio it cannot get a break. There was a metal manufacturing plant explosion yesterday where it killed at least one person. 13 others were injured. Who knows if the death toll will rise? I'm not sure the extent of the injuries of the 13 people, but that was in Bedford, Ohio. You have the known train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, that happened February 3rd, and we're still dealing with all of that aftermath. There were 62 acres of farmland that just went up into flames a couple of days ago somewhere in Ohio. And then over the last couple of days, you have massive overdoses in Columbus, Ohio. I think they said there were 18 overdoses in the past 24 hours in Columbus, Ohio. Just Ohio is having a very, very rough time right now. I want to talk about just a couple of things with you guys this morning. It is Tuesday, February the 21st. Good morning, SquirrelTribe. So yesterday was President's Day. That's why there was nothing really happening in East Palestine yesterday, because everybody had to take the day off, so, because they got paid for that day off, so they didn't want to miss that. Today they have the health clinic that happens to be popping up in East Palestine, Ohio, to kind of help the citizens of the area feel safer and better about their health concerns following all of the toxic chemicals that have been released into their water, soil, and air over the past couple of weeks. But on top of that, some of you may not have known this, but in January 29th, East Palestine, Ohio actually implemented a thing called My ID. So I had a couple of you guys mention that to me, so I wanted to look it up. So this is what I found for you guys. So there was in October of last year, there was an article out that said that East Palestine is the place to be because of what was going to happen in January, which is this thing called My ID, which I have an article here to read to you guys because I want to make sure I give you the correct information here. So it's supposed to be this new medical service, right? That's supposed to kind of help safety personnel, I guess you could say, like firefighters, police, whoever else, scan a QR code that would either be on a key fob that you have or on your bracelet, so they could get your contact information if there was an emergency. They could see your allergies, they could see any illnesses you may have had, and other things like that. And a lot of people seem to be confused on exactly what the My ID is. So what this is, it's a small device that they say it's an important medical device available to all the residents in East Palestine, just East Palestine for some reason. And it says it gives them rapid information that we may need should somebody be unresponsive or having some kind of emergency. This is according to the fire chief, Keith Drabick in East Palestine. It says My ID provides wearable devices or key fobs that have QR codes. The QR codes that you pull out the camera on your phone, you scan it, and it pops up whatever is linked to that QR code. It says here, emergency responders use a camera phone to access important medical information. It shows them the underlying medical conditions people have supplied about allergies, medications, and emergency contacts. That information could impact treatment decisions if a person can't say it. All of the information is HIPAA compliant. It says, we're not doing this to gain anybody's information, to try and steal anybody's information. We're doing this to help the public in medical emergencies, according to the fire chief. It says that the My ID is available in East Palestine and Unity Township, and the fire department will demonstrate it to other departments that provide backup, and that My ID can be used anywhere. So what they're saying is, a lot of people were saying that it reads your heart rate and your blood pressure and all this other stuff. But according to everything I've looked up, that is not the case. It is literally like a medical alert bracelet kind of thing. I think that's what those are, where you just wear it and it tells responders, anybody who may find you if you're unresponsive, exactly what medications you may be on or what your health issues are. This one, though, it's just a QR code that you have to scan to get the information. And because it is HIPAA compliant, it can't give any information you aren't willing to put into the QR code itself. According to what I read and what I looked up, it is up to the wearer what information they plan on sharing with the QR code itself, with the My ID, with everybody else. You can put in there what your allergies are, what you're allergic to, what diseases or other things you may have going on with you physically at that moment. It's a thing you can update as you go. Now, the fact that everything seems to be happening in East Palestine is the problem here, y'all. It is the problem. So in October, you have this article coming out talking about how East Palestine is the place to be because of this new My ID thing. And it's like, why would they choose East Palestine to focus this thing on? Out of everywhere in the entire country, why is this where this is going? Why East Palestine? So I wanted to look up East Palestine and see exactly what it is. And so I looked up, and I want you guys to know that East Palestine, it's kind of like a little dot of, I want to say dot of nothing in the middle of nowhere. Like, that's what I'm coming up with. I'm not seeing anything major about East Palestine. So according to this, they're just under, the population's 4,739 people, right? Their real estate median home value is $89,900 and your median rent is $759. Now, according to this though, 68% of residents own, 32% of residents rent their places. Here's what I find interesting. The median home value in East Palestine being just under $90,000, where the national median home value is $245,000. So this is definitely a place where there is less money being spent and less money coming in. This is a very, in my opinion, according to this, it is a, I don't want to say poor area, but it is not what they would consider like a money area, someplace where you have just money to spend and things like that. So median rent at $759, where the national average is closer to $1,200. So I look on the map and I don't really see anything crazy about East Palestine. It's not near anything. It used to be called Mechanicsburg until it was changed for religious purposes. They changed it to East Palestine because of the religion that's in the area. In case you guys didn't know that, it used to be Mechanicsburg. So it has low assault, murder, crime rates. The residents, here's the other thing that I found interesting. Residents, the highest percentages, 21% of residents, are over 65 years old, 18% are under 10 years old, and the rest make up the middle. Your highest percentage of citizens there are over 65 years old. They are older, non-working citizens, right? And only 22% of people that live there have some sort of college education, whereas the national average is closer to 29%. Median household income is just under $45,000, where the national is just under $70,000. So again, it's not a place that has a lot of money. And I find that interesting that a place that is very low income, does not have money to really build anything or buy anything or sustain anything, is the place where they want to start this whole new My ID thing, and where East Palestine is the place to be. Why is that where they want to do all of this? So then I start looking at a couple more things. And I noticed that, let me find this right one for you guys. I have a couple different articles here that I wanted to go through, and a couple different things that I had written down that I found to be very, very important. We talked about the brush fire. That was 62 acres of brush fire. Hold on for me one second. Okay, so this is what I was looking for. I took a screenshot from this lady. Her name is Jamie Cozza, C-O-Z-Z-A. She said her and her family evacuated to a hotel out of East Palestine when the train derailed, and have not moved back to town. She said she's glad she didn't return after a toxicology report done at her house came back with bad news. I got a phone call today that I can't be there. They're offering me last month's rent and all moving expenses. She said she had to demand further testing of her water and soil. They said my house, I cannot go back to it. They called today and offered me that settlement. My question is, why doesn't everyone else deserve that same testing? So here's my question. They tested her house, her area, and I want to know exactly where hers is, to where they were like, oh, you can't go back there, so we're going to pay you. And the question is, who is offering this? Is it the EPA? Is it Norfolk Southern? Is it another agency within Ohio? Is it something even bigger than that? Because she does not mention here who offered this. But if they are trying to now say, hey, listen, we'll just buy your home, knowing that the median home price is 1/4 of or 1/3 of what it is within the rest of the country, it will make it very easy for somebody to come in there and buy up those homes from those people who have lower income than anybody else in the rest of the country, according to the medians, right? So I'm looking at this from so many different angles, y'all, because again, you can call me a conspiracy theorist, but I feel like I'm more of a look at the things that they're not telling you. Put all these things together. What's his name? Pete Buttigieg? I don't know how to say his name. I'm not gonna lie. Pete B, whatever. He hasn't even been to East Palestine. He says he will go when the timing is right. The President Biden has not been to East Palestine. He went to Ukraine and Poland instead of going to East Palestine. I'm guessing the timing isn't right either. FEMA isn't showing up. I need y'all to understand that when these big names who should be the first ones to go there have not shown up, it says to me that even they feel it is unsafe to go to, okay? Well, they have the health clinic going up today. I've been looking everywhere. I haven't seen any pictures or videos yet of the health clinic being set up, of anybody being there yet. Hopefully they do set it up. I'm very curious how they're going to do it, if they're going to show up in hazmat suits and face masks and everything else, because if they do, that tells you right there that it is not safe for the residents to be there. But the fact that they're already willing and offering to buy people's homes says to me that there is a bigger plan for all of this. That train could have derailed anywhere, but it happens to derail in East Palestine, the same place where they're doing the My ID, where they're checking, where they're saying that it's for your own safety, so that if you fall out or whatever else, that they can contact your loved ones. But if you're also going to these health clinics and these doctors and you're having them update your information, they're then going to be able to put these things into your My ID, because they gave them for free to most of these residents. They did a where you raise money, they did fundraiser or whatever, to get enough money to supply these bands to the majority of the residents. Not all of them, but they said that these things only cost roughly $20, but it's for your safety to have this bracelet or this key fob on you at all times in case something happens to you, and they're only $20, right? So everything kind of going together makes me wonder what they want out of East Palestine. Then I had somebody email me about the fact that there is a new Intel chip processing plant going up in Ohio. There's supposed to be 2 of them going up. It will be the 2 biggest Intel chip processing plants in the world, not just the country, but in the world. And they happen to be going up in Ohio. There's just so much happening in Ohio that it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't understand why suddenly Ohio is the place to be, and why everything seems to be happening there right now. But there is a lot going on there.
You might be wondering, why are you sharing this information with us? This does not directly impact us, the American people. However, yes, it really does, and I'm going to explain here after I give you the details of this report why this is so incredibly important and what it means for the American people. So let's get into it and talk through the details of this report, as we are dealing with some huge numbers. All right, now this directly relates to how much interest is being paid on the national debt here in this country. Now remember, I'm talking about interest payments. We're not talking about principal, nothing like that. We're talking about just interest payments on the national debt. Again, these numbers are huge. Let me talk you through the details. So, this report was just released, and it shows that just in the 4th quarter, as in October, November, and December of 2022, so a couple months ago, the Treasury paid $213 billion just in interest on the national debt. That's crazy. Can you imagine that? $213 billion just in interest. We're not talking about like principal, interest, all of these things. We're talking about just interest. How would you like to be on the receiving side of that? $213 billion in 3 months. That's crazy, right? I mean, seriously, could you imagine that? Just imagine you have a savings account and every 3 months they deposit $213 billion of interest. I mean, seriously, would you be living a good life? I think so, right? By the way, that's just under $1 trillion a year in interest, right? However, now let me give you some perspective on this, because we might be thinking, okay, that's a ton of money, but like, is that high? Is it low? Whatever. Let me give you some perspective on that now. So 1 year prior, in the 4th quarter of 2021, the Treasury paid $149 billion of interest on the national debt. So again, just on a year-over-year basis, from the 4th quarter of 2021 to the 4th quarter of 2022, they paid an additional $64 billion in interest on that debt. Again, that's a lot, right? A new record. In fact, just in the 3rd quarter of 2022 versus the 4th quarter of 2022, they paid an additional $30 billion just in that 1 quarter difference. So 3rd quarter to 4th quarter, they paid an additional $30 billion just in interest. It's crazy, right? I mean, we're talking about huge numbers here. It's almost like we can't even kind of put this into perspective as far as what this actually means, right? That is a ton of money. Now, here's the thing. Like I said earlier, you might be wondering now, okay, Great, these are some huge numbers, very interesting, but why do we care? Here's what it comes down to. The extra interest that is being paid on all the national debt right now is a direct relation to the Federal Reserve raising interest rates. So we've been talking about this a lot lately in previous videos where the Federal Reserve has been coming out for roughly the last year now, aggressively raising interest rates, 50 basis points, 75 basis points for 4 times last year. In the middle part of last year, they came out with a 50 basis point rate hike. Their last meeting a couple weeks ago, they came out with a 25 basis point rate hike. And as of recently, with all the economic data coming out, as in the inflation report that was just out a short time ago, a few days ago, a week or so ago, that came out and showing us that inflation is still actually going up. Inflation is not going down anymore. It is now going up again. We can also see that the job market is still very strong right now. So this may give the Federal Reserve a little bit more leeway here where they might be raising interest rates, probably another 50 basis points again in March. So in late March, the Federal Reserve will be meeting again for their next FOMC meeting, and they'll be coming out then with their decisions on interest rates and what they're going to be doing going forward. Likely another 50 basis points. Now, why does this matter and why do we care? Well, we care for the reasons that I just explained, which is this is causing a lot more payment, as in a lot more money going out the door, not only for the Treasury, but for the United States American people as well. Now, here's the thing. I know that I gave you some huge numbers there, and I illustrated that based on this report and how much interest is being paid on the national debt on a national level, billions and billions of dollars every single quarter, right? But as a result of that, it's the exact same picture for the American people, just on a much smaller scale. Now, here's the thing. If you have any type of, adjustable rate interest, right? So like, a credit card, maybe, like a home equity line of credit, personal loans, auto loans, anything like this that may be adjustable, or you're in the phase of maybe locking in some type of personal loan or some type of debt product, something like that. All of these interest rates are still very, very high. And as the Federal Reserve continues to come out and raise interest rates even further, guess what? It just makes it even more expensive to borrow money.
So an ABC poll says that 40% say that they are worse off financially now than they were 2 years ago. And the most negative response to that question in nearly 40 years under the Biden administration. And this is at a time where the CEO of America's second largest bank is preparing for possible U.S. debt default, as Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan is preparing for possible U.S. debt default after seeing here that lots of reports on Instagram and TikTok, Reddit, of problems at Bank of America. Many customers are missing money and not getting answers. Meanwhile, Bank of America gave personal information to the FBI for 140 customers just for taking a bus to DC, and then ran them for anyone owning a firearm so the FBI could press charges. This is crazy. WTF. And the Fed is running a new stress test scenario that will include a new exploratory market shock for the 8 largest banks, some of which already testing out central bank digital currency pilot programs, CBDC. So ultimately, they are preparing for a huge recession kind of market shock. And Bank of America has been raising huge red flags about this. According to Reuters, the U.S. Federal Reserve on Thursday released the hypothetical economic strains that they will use to test the strength of big bank finances in its 2023 stress test, and floated the possibility of using multiple scenarios in the future. Now, in a statement, the Fed said this year's test will include a new exploratory market shock for the 8 largest banks, which will not affect their capital requirements, but will further detail their resilience, as well as help the Fed decide whether it should pursue multiple test scenarios in the future. The annual exam of bank health, in which the Fed sees how banks perform against a potential severe economic downturn, has become a critical event for large firms. How well they perform directly dictates how much capital they need to set aside as a cushion, or as we all know, as a bail-in. Meanwhile, the 2023 version will include a severe recession with heightened stress in both commercial and residential real estate markets and corporate debt markets. Banks with large trading operations will also be tested against a global market shock, as the Fed has done in years prior. But new this year is an extra market shock applied to the 8 largest firms, including JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, and Citigroup. While the Fed did not detail what the market shock would look like, they noted it would not contribute to a firm's capital requirements. Fractional reserve banking, folks. Now, instead, the results of the test are meant to be educational, including helping the Fed determine whether it could bolster future tests by applying multiple scenarios to companies to capture a wider array of risks. And I would imagine that these tests would be more likely in the future when we do see CBDC rolling out full steam. The 2023 test marks the first under-Fed Vice Chair for Supervisor Michael Barr, who had previously floated multiple scenarios as a way to better gauge such risks. But at the end of the day, folks, we got to realize that it's plain and simple. People are going to be missing money, and they're probably not going to be getting very many answers to help them find solutions to missing their money. And with that being said,
well, I think that about covers most of what I want to show you all for today. Remember, I'm not monetized, so if you can give me anything in Cash App or Bitcoin, I appreciate it. Hopefully the SSI won't take it all, but I wouldn't put it past them. That's all, folks.